And we're going to get into our reading of Marv and Jan. Some folks might be curious about Eugenie. Some folks may not have transferred over here yet. Maybe I don't have everything set up right. Is it set right? No, it can't be. Okay, just want to make sure. All right. Peace and blessings to you, Sister Katina. I was talking to myself there for a few moments. And we're going to let folks file in here. Peace and blessings to you, Grace's son, Sister Damali, 7th Ward Creole. Sounds bare, doesn't it? One more. Peace and blessings to you. My name is my name. And Sister Elaine says, read Laurel Canyon next. That's a good suggestion. And it's already here, too. Yeah, that'll be the top candidate to take the spot of Marv and Jan. Unless I can get the Monties to understand what I'm saying. But let's go ahead and get into this reading for tonight. This is the finale. So, this chapter these last two chapters, look, it's a total of 275, and it's over at 2. It's exactly 15 pages. It's going to be over in no time. So let's go. The beginning. Excuse me. No. The end. That's what it is, right? The end. And as a matter of fact, a lot of what I thought was pages is just her thanking people. So this is going to be very short. The end. I wish this had been not the ending, but the beginning. Please hit that like button if you forgot to do so. I appreciate you. So, I wish this had been not the ending, but the beginning of Marvin's recovery and rehabilitation, the beginning of his return to sanity, his family, and the God whom he deeply loved, the beginning of a new stage in which he finally learned to harmonize his personal life as beautifully as he harmonized his music, the beginning of renewed beauty, renewed strength, renewed hope. Yet, in April 1983, exactly a year after the composition of Sexual Healing, an anthem of hope, hope was hard to come by. Before Marvin left to go on tour, he drove down to Hermosa to tell me and our kids goodbye. He did not look well, like here. I know the tour is a mistake, he said, but it's a mistake that's already been made. You can postpone it until you feel better about it, I said, until you build up your strength. God is my strength. God will not abandon me. I know that. I'm glad you're talking about God. I know God led me to you, Jan, but the devil led me away. The devil also got into you. But if we pray, if we believe, God will prevail. I want to believe that. You need to believe that, he said. I want you to come along. I want us to be family. For 30 minutes, we were a family. For 30 minutes, there was a sense of calm. We went to the park. We sang songs. We made jokes. We treated each other with patience and love. Before he left, he invited me out to his car. We shouldn't, he said, but I know you want to. I want to as well. This stuff is primo. He offered me a vial. I accepted. At least we aren't smoking it, he said. But by evening time, we were doing just that. Think of it as the peace pipe, said Marvin. After the high hit, there was peace. The tour started in San Diego, snaked up the coast to San Carlos, then turned eastward to Baton Rouge, Houston, Mobile, Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas, Shreveport. City after city, night after night, the Midnight Love Tour took its toll on Marvin's frayed nerves. Alarming reports came back to me. Crazy phone calls. Marvin was in a perpetual state of fear, afraid of flying, afraid of performing, afraid of facing less than capacity crowds. The fact that there were a number of sellouts did not calm his fear. Remember what I told you, he said when he called back to California. A perfect love casts out all fear. That's scripture. I have a preacher traveling with me who's administering prayer night and day. Only prayer can protect me. Protect you from what? Here it is. You know better than I do, Jan. Long ago you conspired with my enemies. You slept with my enemies. You inspired them to seek my ruin. I can no longer speak with you. Just put the children on the line. A week later, I learned that although Marvin had employed a clergyman to accompany him, drug dealers were also part of the entourage. Marvin had a 3-bedroom hotel suite. He was in one room, the preacher in another, and the drug dealer in the third. Marvin was running between rooms, repentant one moment, sky high the next. Reports from the road grew more alarming. At the finale of the show, Marvin would come out in a robe to perform sexual healing. Yes. He would come out in a robe. A hot mess. Marvin would come out in a robe to perform sexual healing. At some point, he this robe covered only by black briefs. Yes. I exposed myself because the fans demanded, he told me in New York, where I'd arrived to see him play Radio City Music Hall. I offer myself up for slaughter. I am the sacrificial lamb. If their pleasure requires my destruction, so be it. You don't need to do that, I said. You don't need to strip. You have a beautiful body, but it isn't about your body. It's about your voice, Marvin. Your fans love you because of your voice and the soul it expresses. You speak in platitudes, dear, not in truth. The truth is that you have a vested interest in my destruction. And not only you and your dad Earl. There are others out here who are plotting. I've caught wind of those plots and have been forced to employ extreme security measures. Those measures included hiring his friend Dave Simmons, as well as his brother Frankie, to walk with him through the airports, hotels, and concert venues. Because both men resembled Marvin, Marvin felt that a potential assassin, and he was seeing assassins everywhere, would be unable to identify the real Marvin and consequently hold fire. There's no one who wants to harm you, I said. You're not thinking right. Wink. And you are? Asked Marvin. Are you speaking out of sound reason? Can you really set me on the straight and narrow? Have you really put down the pipe? I had no answer. Although my level of paranoia was nowhere near Marvin's, I had not put down the pipe. It was at Radio City when Columbia Records label head Walter Yetnikoff, a man Marvin liked enormously, came backstage before the show and got blasted with Marvin on coke. High as a kite, Walter put on Marvin's red sequin stage jacket and went wandering off. When it was time to perform, Marvin had to find another jacket. After the show, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharptongue met with Marvin and pressed their case that he should be using a black promoter that would kick them both down a little piece of change on the back end. It says, Marvin argued that he often did just that, but on this tour, he was using Don Joe Medlevine, who had been a long-time loyal supporter, especially during the dark days of Marvin's tax problems. Despite the sharp protests coming from Jackson and Sharptongue, Marvin held his ground. My New York trip was reasonably calm. Maybe that's the reason I agreed to join Marvin again on the road, this time in Miami. Big mistake. I traveled there with my drug dealer and his wife. Have mercy. When I arrived, Marvin looked dreadful. His eyes were bloodshot. His nose was leaking. He seemed lost. An aura of madness surrounded us. You're effing my bass player, Marvin screamed the minute he saw me. James Jameson? Well, the accusation was unfounded. No, I'm not, I insisted. You've come here to torture me, Marvin insisted. You're talking crazy, I yelled. That night I slept on the couch. Given Marvin's volatility, I was afraid. The next morning I was able to escape to the room of my drug dealer and his wife. I got high. The high deepened my confusion. How could I cope with the insanity surrounding Marvin and the tour? He probably just smoked some bad stuff, the dealer speculated. Smoke some of this good stuff and you'll feel better. The good stuff did make me feel better, and then worse, and then better again. That night, Marvin's bodyguards called me to say Marvin wanted to see me. I knew I shouldn't go there. For years, I'd known that I had to get away. And yet I answered his call. I went to his room. I love you, and I'll always love you, Marvin told me. But you're effing my bass player. Without warning, he threw a hot, steamy towel that hit me in the face. You're effing up my life, he screamed. Then he took a pot of hot water and threw it at me. I moved out of the way, but his violence stunned me. I ran from his room, ran down a long exterior hallway that stretched the length of the motel. I was on a high floor. I was sure Marvin or his men would catch me and throw me over the side. I ran fast and fast until I reached the room of my drug dealer. Get me out of here before something happens, I said. He gave me money to switch hotels. What a nice guy. The next morning, I was on a plane heading to L.A. I know how she kept her bill paid. The next evening, I was back in Hermosa Beach, where Mom was caring for the children. I vacillated between sweet dreams where I was united with Marvin and nightmares in which he expressed murderous rage. The dreams and nightmares were reflected in reality. He called to say he was sorry. He called to say that he knew I'd hired the Crips to murder him. I ain't lying. You got to see that. The Crip right there. He called to say that he knew I'd hired the Crips to murder him. When I called the accusation ridiculous, and Marvin was probably right as rain. When I called the accusation ridiculous, she probably had an insurance policy or something on him. When I called the accusation ridiculous, he hung up on me. I had never felt such frustration, such hopelessness. With all my heart, I wanted to help Marvin, but I didn't know how. In August, the Midnight Love Tour hobbled back to California. Very flattering. By the time Marvin played the Greek Theater in L.A., he was spent. His voice was gone. He was gaunt. He was so paranoid about assassins that he stationed bodyguards to stand on either side of the stage during his performance. After months on the road, he was sick of mind, body, and spirit. Marvin couldn't remain still. Because he felt chased, because he was increasingly uncomfortable in his own skin, he had to keep moving. Dreams, nightmares, and reality collided. I couldn't tell one from the other. In my dreams, Marvin and I were fully recovered, fully healthy. Oh, you want to see Eugenie too, don't you? You're going to make sure you get to see Eugenie before it's all said and done here. This is Eugenie. Wait a minute. That's her too. Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. I got a good picture of her for you. Hold on. Her, him, whatever it is. Okay. It says, in my dreams, Marvin and I were fully recovered, fully healthy. There were blue skies and puffy white clouds, fields of fragrant wildflowers, green rolling hills. In my nightmares, people around me were lost in the dark, dealing with death by fatal diseases or bullets to the head. In reality, I was struggling for sanity. I feared that Marvin was losing his sanity. He had no real home, moving from his sister's apartment to Anna's home in the Hollywood Hills. I need to stay on the move, he said. The devil's on my trail. The devil can't know my plan. No one can. I have a plan that will shock the world. His plan was to record a follow-up to Sexual Healing with Sanctified Pussy. Some say the song is beneath me, he explained. And yes, there is humor implicit in the title, but it is no joke. To find a church girl, pure and innocent, as you were once innocent, Jan. I was never innocent, I interrupted. I lost my innocence when I was a child. When you met me, you imagined me to be someone I was not. When you met me, I had already been to hell and back. So had you. You forget those things. I remember everything, he said. I remember too much. It's time to forget the past and turn back the hands of time. Time to meet that one woman, untainted and incorruptible. Good luck on that journey, I said. I need a woman as flawless as my own mother. You'll never find that, Marvin. We only get one mother. A week later, I was alarmed to learn that Marvin had gone to live with his mother. He had moved back to the rambling house on Gramercy Place. His father was there, living in a second-floor bedroom next to Mother's bedroom. Down the hallway was the room where Marvin slept. Back in his parents' home, Marvin grew more distant from reality. From what I heard, his paranoia grew alarmingly worse. January 1984, February, March. The winter came and went. I knew that he couldn't forgive himself for his inability to stop freebasing. For the same reason I couldn't forgive myself. I was disgusted with myself for staying on the pike. He was disgusted with himself. He hated himself for turning away from God's path. Because money from Marvin ceased long ago, I was living on very little. I borrowed money from ex-lovers, friends, and family. I got a job cleaning house for a lady who paid me half in cash and half in cocaine. Given Marvin's state of mind, I couldn't ask for a thing. He needed help, but no one around him, not his siblings, not his friends, not his management team, was able to reach him. At one point, he jumped out of the back seat of a moving car. He just wanted the pain to stop. They say he was also putting his shoes on the wrong feet at this time. I knew he was desperate. Everyone around Marvin knew. But everyone, including me, was trapped in our emotional prison. I was told that there was a gun. Supposedly, Marvin bought it months earlier and gave it to his father. "You need to protect me," he told the man who had never protected him, the man who had tortured him. "They're after me. You must stop them. I'm afraid." "I've never seen Marvin so afraid," his brother Frankie told me. "He's afraid of everything and everyone. Everyone except Mother. He clings to Mother." Mother was protection, but why had he appointed Father as his chief protector? Why had he handed a gun to Father? Or had he? Only God knows. I was afraid to go over there. I stayed away. I didn't really know the full extent of the madness. On April 1st, April Fool's Day, the day before Marvin's 45th birthday, Father was screaming at Mother, accusing her of misplacing an insurance form. From what I was told, Marvin took up the role of protector. He felt compelled to protect Mother against the man verbally assaulting her, the man he had assigned to protect him, the man with the gun. He felt compelled to do more than simply assault the man verbally. He had to assault him physically. I don't know the severity of that assault, but I do know that Marvin harbored a lifetime of hatred for the man who had beat him unmercifully as a boy. I was home with the children when the calls started coming in. At first, I didn't believe any of them, but there were too many to ignore. I wanted to rip the phone from the wall. I didn't want to hear the words. I wanted to run away from the reality of what I was being told by a plain-spoken detective. It was true. Marvin Gaye was dead. I dropped the phone and collapsed on the floor. When I picked myself up, I was still struggling to comprehend the incomprehensible. Marvin had beaten his father. His father had responded by fulfilling Marvin's darkest and deepest hope. His father had taken the gun Marvin had given him and shot his son dead. Marvin was set free from his human form. His father had punished him one last time, showing no mercy. Marvin had punished his father by, according to the teachings of his church, ensuring his father's eternal damnation. This was the last chapter of their poisonous story. All these were ideas reeling through my brain. None of them made sense. All of them made sense. All I knew was that I was going to have to sit down with our children and tell them the most horrible thing they would ever hear. Daddy is gone. The beginning. I cannot tell you that Marvin's death led me to the realization that drugs were ruining my life and caused me to put them down. It did no such thing. The sad fact was that in the immediate aftermath of his death, I used drugs to block the pain, only delaying it and ultimately increasing my usage. Like a dark cloud, my drug addiction hung over me for a year after Marvin's passing. Finally, with the support of Rick James, who himself was plagued by a series of relapses, I ultimately did stop, and am glad to report that for many decades I have lived a life free of the madness brought on by drugs. In the years following his death, I went through every emotional phase known to man and woman. I was furious with Marvin for leaving us, for not being there to watch his children grow up, for missing the joy of his grandson. Mostly, though, I was furious and angry with myself. I had fallen for Marvin. I had followed him. Even after following him proved to be a senseless thing to do, I kept exhibiting the same behavior. How could I ever forgive myself for effing up on such a massive scale? For years I couldn't. For years I was driven by a bitterness fueled by rage. Marvin had abandoned us. I had abandoned myself. Marvin had manipulated and used me. I had manipulated and used him. The more I thought about those 11 plus years that we were together, the more potent my self-disgust. And yet, I put on a record. I closed my eyes and listened to Marvin sing What's Going On. I closed my eyes and listened to Marvin sing God is Love and Save the Children. I closed my eyes and listened to Marvin sing Let's Get It On and I Want You. I closed my eyes and listened to the sublime ballads from Vulnerable. The softness, the sweetness, the engaging harmonies, the heart-healing soulfulness, the sound of a man in pain and joy and hurt and hope and love, the expression of someone who reflects divinity even as the weight of his human frailties brings him back to earth, back to my arms, back to my life, a life that he has never left and never will. a musical life of love. It has taken me a long time to learn, but I know now that love is not diminished by the opposing emotions that accompany it. I'm talking about jealousy, insecurity, distrust, even hate. Those emotions pass, but love lasts. It lasts because it contains the one ingredient that ensures its everlasting endurance: compassion. After the dance of our romance, after all the senseless, crazy changes we went through, I've learned to feel more deeply for Marvin than ever before. In that same poem that Marvin loved, The Four Quarters, T.S. Eliot wrote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." The love I shared with Marvin was excruciatingly difficult and exceedingly easy, yet in its difficulty was a gift. It has forced me to do a great deal of introspective work. Work, wrote Khalil Gibran in The Prophet, is love made visible. Beyond helping me find compassion for Marvin, that work has led me to find compassion for myself, that I lost myself in someone else. Someone as remarkable as Marvin Gaye is no longer cause for self-condemnation. It is cause for sublime celebration. I was who I was, and I did what I did. In spite of my history, I have survived. Marvin's history, with all its brutal complexities, cut short his survival. He was who he was, and he did what he did. I no longer have to judge him or judge myself. Compassion overwhelms judgment. Night and day, Marvin's voice becalms our hearts and nourishes our souls. And so he lives inside me. He lives inside all of us as a spirit of harmony, a soaring spirit that connects us to the power of inextinguishable love. My children and I do our best to move forward. We strive to conduct ourselves with self-respect while honoring the great artistic legacy Marvin has left. Difficult as these past 30 years have been, we remain grateful for his presence in our lives. He is a gift. Our gratitude is boundless for all the challenges and strife, all the victories and harmony, for all we enjoyed, all we suffered, all we endured, all we lost, all we gained, all we learned. There is deep and abiding appreciation. The final words are not the end. The final words are, thank you. Yep. The gratitude section, she said, to say that life has not been a serious and painful challenge in many ways since Marvin's death would be a tremendous understatement. I believe that he left me with enough life lessons and guidelines, though, to survive it all. For years after his death, it was just us three, me and the kids. And now with my grandson, we are four. I'm amazed that I am now 15 years older than Marvin will ever be. It's taken me 30 years to feel safe enough to tell my story. Doing so has brought joy, pain, fear, satisfaction, and a sense of freedom. Marvin was my friend, my lover, my teacher, my mother, my father, my husband, the father to our two beautiful children, and grandfather to my incredible grandson, my partner in crime, my advocate, my opponent, my conscience, and my subconscious. My conscience and my subconscious. He made me laugh, cry, and brought me some of the most wonderful moments of my life. His spirit is so strong that I feel him every day. He walked me through many a long, dark hour after his death. I thank God for the time that he gave us together, good and bad, for without both, I would have had none. We were hippies when we met, and I will remain that way. Marvin was a prophet who sang of issues decades ago that are sadly still relevant today. Frightening things that should inspire us to wake up, protect our planet, and save our children. If he had lived, I believe he would be doing just that. What's going on will forever represent the profound need for love, peace, awareness, understanding, and healing that we all need to survive the negative and deadly repercussions of our actions, which threaten to destroy us all. Time to get it together. Now, I believe there is a part of him that is at peace, the physical. I believe his spirit is restless, and I believe many of us that knew him and many who didn't might agree and know the reasons why. Someday we'll all be free. And that's the very end. That's it. And Eugenie. Ooh, wee. Oh, no. That's the guy. Wait a minute. Hold it. Eugenie. I think this is her right here. No, wait a minute. No, I had a good picture of her. Did Anna got horns? Oh, it's just the way it just happened. Just the way the picture is taken. I think this is her. Or that's Frankie. I don't think that's Marvin. I think that's Frankie. Hold on. Trust me. I saw this lady. Well, I'll find her later maybe, and then let's listen to some music now. Yeah, I think that's her. This is her, I believe. He's got pictures. He's got a picture with her. Okay, let's put on our tunes and then move to that. And this is the cover. That's the cover in full effect. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so let's go to our tunes, and for all the folks running on fumes, I appreciate you for keeping on as long as you did. Mm-hmm. Find a good one. Well, and Marvin was out of place as a boy raised up in the church, even with the dysfunctional father/minister that he had. He still had the knowledge. He was raised up in the way he should go. And folks who are raised up knowing the Lord, don't act ashamed of it. Stay in your place, stay in your lane, and love it. Don't be out of place. Well, thank you for joining. My name is my name, and I appreciate everybody else who came in here tonight. King Cone, Mike Jr., Sister Estelle, Cookie Cruncher, Seventh Ward, Sister Katina, Sweet Lady 0512, Brother Nolan, Cookie Cruncher, when the son of man go to the racetrack, he find you there. Sister Melody, Sister Damali, Sister Candy, Sister Estelle, what have you left for the son of man to do? Brother Jonathan G. When the son of man goes to the dance hall, he see you there jumping too. Sean DeMoe. Say you need to take a drink after
a hard day's work. You said it'll be alright just as long as you don't drink too much. A Christian man. What have you left for the sinner man to do?
Sister Tanti.
When the sinner man go to the nightclub, you see you there drinking too. In church on Sunday morning, you sing as loud as you can. When the preacher began his sermon, you shout, oh yes, I've been born again. But Christian man, what have you left for the son of man to do?
Anybody I missed, I'm so sorry. Sister Natasha.
I wonder where you'll be there too.
Then I saw Sister Tanya, maybe, top. Yeah, it's tripping now. I see what's happening. Got a lot of tabs open. It's okay. Trying to find some good new ones. Something different than what we always play. Beyond Blessed, thank you for joining us as well. Sister Elaine, thank you for joining us again.
I just want to tell you about it.
Catch everybody on Wednesday night. Love you.
Bad looking hard time. Now walk your mind. Oh, bad looking hard times.
And peace and blessings to you, Sister Minister Rebecca. Much love to you.
Doing what you want to do. I just want to tell you watching you. Yeah. Jesus is watching you. Yeah. You there that's chasing another man's wife is your life. Yeah. Jesus is watching you. Don't you know? Jesus is watching you. Yeah. 'Cause that girl you got on the corner. Just like me, don't you know? Bad looking hard time. Sodom and Gomorrah, the day and tomorrow. We live in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. Love by the number 2469 all the time. Black and white, day and night. Oh, trying to make it right, trying to make things right. Oh, yeah. Here today, things right. Oh, don't move the mountain. Give me strength to climb it. Please don't move that stumbling block. Lead me, Lord, around it. Lord, don't move the mountain. Give me strength to climb it. Please don't move that stumbling block. Lead me, Lord, around it. When my enemies would slay me, this they would try to do. Lord, don't touch them over there in this heart. Make me give a thought to you. Lord, don't move the mountain. Give me strength to climb it. Please don't move that stumbling block. Lead me, Lord, around it. The way may not be easy. Didn't say that it would be. When my tribulation get too light, we tend to stray from thee. Lord, don't move the mountain. Give me strength to climb it. Please don't move that stumbling block. Lead me, Lord, around it. Lord, don't move the mountain. Give me strength to climb it. Please don't move that stumbling block. Lead me, Lord, around it. 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 Every once in a while, trouble seems to get in our way. We know, man, today, this is high and looks down. Every once in a while, you hear the southern travelers saying words that go like this. Oh, yeah. Listen, I know the Lord, He will make the way. I know the Lord, He will make the way. Listen, when I was sick, Lord, I couldn't was a beggar named Lazarus who lay at his gate. He wanted the crumbs that fell from the table. The rich man called his door. Somebody knows the story. Listen. Now the Lord who gives us all life changed their nature and they did not bite. And that night the rich man died. In hell he lifted up his eyes. Oh, but Lazarus also died and was taken to Abraham's side. Now when the rich man beheld this sight, he cried out with all his might, and he was crying, crying, crying. I could hear him saying these words. Oh, Father Abraham, Father Abraham, oh, Father Abraham, send me some water, send me some water, send me some water. Now the moral of this story is you might have a lot of worldly glory, but take the highest road in life, which is love. Let's talk about love. Jesus said the greatest commandment is here, O Israel, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. Love your mother, you ought to love your father, love your sister, love your brother. Oh, oh, love. Oh, yeah. It's a shame what's going on in the world today. Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord, please look down and have mercy right now. I know you see what's going on. I just want to tell you about it. Bad luck and hard time. Help up your mind. Oh, bad luck and hard times. Help up your mind. You pimps red back in your new Cadillac, shooting smack. Yeah. Jesus is watching you. Don't you know right now? Jesus is watching you. Yeah. You got women's out on the corner doing what you want to do. I just want to tell you. Watching you. Yeah. Jesus is watching you. Yeah. You there that's chasing another man's wife is your life. Yeah. Jesus watching you. Don't you know? Jesus is watching you. Oh, yeah. When I was a young man, running around in the world, I made up my mind that I wanted to be saved. I made my way to a little sanctified church, y'all, that sat way back down in the woods. I gave the minister my hand, and he began to talk with me. The saints of God began gathering around. The Lord saved me. He filled me with the Holy Ghost. Anybody ask you, yeah, what's the matter with me? Yeah, tell them I'm saved and I'm sanctified. My soul has been set free, y'all. If y'all don't mind it, will you tell these people? Yeah, tell 'em I'm saved, I'm sanctified, my soul free. Good God Almighty, I got to move on. I want to say it one more time. Anybody ask you, yeah, what's the matter with me? Yeah, tell them I'm saved, yes, I am, and I'm sanctified. My soul has been set free. Boy, if you don't mind it, will you tell them just one more time? Tell me, yeah. Tell 'em I'm saved and sanctified, my soul set free. Wait a minute, y'all gotta listen. Good God Almighty, if you know Jesus and you're not ashamed, you ought to tell the world. Tell 'em I'm saved and I'm sanctified. Been down in the water, hey, fire. I can tell the world that I know Jesus and I'm not ashamed. Been saved with me. Been saved all day. Said the Lord I'm saved. He never left me. Now I'm saved and I'm sanctified. From the moment of my head to the sole of my feet. I can tell the world. Tell 'em I've been redeemed. Tell 'em I've been in the world. Tell 'em I've been baptized. I've been condemned. And I feel all right. People, I'm determined to hold out until the end. Oh, I know he's coming back again. That's why I'm gonna keep on working hard every day. I know in the end, I know I'll get mine. Yeah, while on this Christian journey, my way get dark sometimes. Sometimes my way get dark at night, but I keep on searching, trying to find a light. I know if I keep walking up the King's Highway, I know in the end, I know I'll get mine. Yeah, no matter how hard we try to do good today, somebody gonna always put stumbling blocks in your way. Listen here. Satan gonna try. He'll try to turn me around. That's not all that he'll try to do you today. If you don't watch out, there's another thing that he'll try to do you. Listen, he's even going to try. He'll try to make people stray. But you ought to tell him, Satan, get behind me. I'm on my way home. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I know I'll keep walking in this narrow way. I know in the end, I know I'll get my way. Yeah, I'll get my way. Yeah, I'll get my way. In case you don't understand me today, I'm not talking about a long, 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 long bank account today. Go and get my pay. I'm not talking about a fine automobile. Go and get my pay. But you know what? I'm talking about a trying to win your soul. If you let it do it, you know what? He will take control. Don't let it fool. Don't let the devil fool you. Please don't you do. Don't let it fool you. Say it one more time. Don't let the devil fool you. Say it again. Don't let it fool you. Listen here. Joe was a sick man, had been sick so long. Tell me all the blood you know what fell from his bones. Don't let him fool you. Don't let the devil fool you. Don't do. Don't let him fool you. Say it one more time. Don't let the devil fool you. Oh, Lord. Don't let him fool you. Listen here now. Job's wife came to him with the devil in her eye. She said to Job, why don't you cut your body down? Don't let him fool you. Don't let the devil fool you. Please don't do. Don't let him fool you. Say it one more time. Don't let the devil fool you. Say it again. Don't let him fool you. Listen here now. Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you. Please. Don't let him fool you. Please. Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you. Don't do. Don't let him fool you. Whatever you do. Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you. He'll try.
Not sure what the next reading will be. I thank everybody for joining us tonight. It's the last song for the night.